Well, I have to say I am shocked. Hamas actually went for Trump's 20-part deal. This is, first of all, amazing. Everyone, Democrat or Republican, should be happy by this. This is fantastic. I think there's a reason for this, and I want to start with that because you may have already heard some of the generic info that's out there, but you know me, my goal is as much as possible to try to give some unique perspective. So what I actually think this has to do with is almost specifically the Trump nuclear program attack on Iran. Consider, for example, what's going on with Pickaxe Mountain. There's a lot of talk that Pickaxe Mountain is starting to see construction development again. But if you actually look at some of the recent Institute for Science and International Security research on what's going on at Pickaxe Mountain, because remember, the United States bombed via Operation Midnight Hammer Fordham and other facilities deep inside of Iran with the B-2 bombers, famous attack. A lot of folks thought, okay, well, we never hit Pickaxe Mountain. Is that because that is a deeper facility? Can our weapons not reach that facility? And if you look at what the Institute for Science and International Security says, they actually suggest that while there is continuing construction facility activity going on at Pickaxe Mountain, it is in line with activity that was really going on before the June war, suggesting there hasn't really been any kind of acceleration of building at Pickaxe Mountain, suggesting maybe Iran is not going to be quite as capable of rebuilding parts of its destroyed nuclear program that previously people feared that Iran would be able to. Mind you, the Israelis, in coordination with the United States, also assassinated a significant portion of the Iranian nuclear science community by specifically targeting scientists and a simultaneous attack at multiple locations throughout Iran. One of the ways they can do this is by actually launching missiles from F-35s or other aircraft, and the missiles can actually rest in space, circulating, waiting to time their attacks at the same time. It's really a phenomenal form of human ingenuity and technology to be able to pull this off. But anyway, I believe that Iran's failure or potential loss in their nuclear science program has made them realize we got to eat some humble pie here. See, if Iran told Hamas, don't take this deal with Israel, we will send you more money, we will send you more weapons, then Hamas wouldn't take this deal. I actually think Donald Trump proposed this peace plan realizing that Iran wasn't going to back Hamas. And when Hamas picked up the phone to call Iran, nobody answered. And then that's where Hamas goes, well, I guess we don't have a leg to stand on anymore. Let's go ahead and take this deal that was negotiated sort of on our behalf without Trump even talking to Hamas, right? Which initially led to a lot of skepticism, rightfully so. But you also have to understand there is a precedent for what Trump wants to do in Gaza, and it does deserve praise. First of all, a lot of Hamas's leadership is dead, so there's really no centralized leadership, although, what's left of Hamas so far, they're accepting the framework of this deal. And the framework of this deal has some really cool precedents in Kosovo. So in Kosovo, we had what was called in the late 90s and the early 2000s, after the sort of devastating ethnic cleansing that took place in the late 90s over there under Milosevic, you ended up getting the Kosovo Transition Governance. Now, Kosovo is like twice the size of the Palestinian territories, smaller population, so more spread out population over there. But anyway, what you ended up having is after this ethnic cleansing that took place, and then this guy ended up getting sent to the Hague. He got indicted by the International Criminal Court in '99, ended up dying in custody in 2006. Terrible ethnic cleansing. What you ended up getting was the UNMIK, the interim mission in Kosovo, and it demilitarized Kosovo and set up an interim administration to manage reconstruction, opened global trade, and you got a bunch of agencies from around the world to set up free and fair elections. Norway came in to establish a police force. America helped build a banking and a justice system. America helped provide NATO troops. The European Union funded reconstruction and business support for Kosovo. And now, according to Gallup, Kosovo is considered one of the safest places in Europe. Tony Blair actually had a lot of experience as part of this sort of transition in the Middle East, in addition to sort of his work in power while this was occurring in Kosovo. Now, what a lot of people are very excited about is they look at a PLA today, a Palestinian Authority today, that has very little power. And they look at this Kosovo deal and Trump's 20-point plan as a way to potentially pull a Kosovo 2.0 in the Gaza Strip. See, right now, 8 Muslim countries back Donald Trump's 20-point plan, and now Hamas has accepted it. And this is a really big moment because it could mean that the same thing that happened in Kosovo that made Kosovo now considered to be one of the safest countries in Europe could potentially be what ends up happening in the Gaza Strip. Just think about that. That would almost be like Donald Trump's Mediterranean paradise coming true in the Gaza Strip, which would be great for the Palestinians. But what also motivated Hamas to potentially take this deal was the fact that Bibi backed off the annexation of Gaza. There was a lot of belief that Bibi was going to go for a full annexation of not just the West Bank, but also the Gaza Strip, and you would never have a Palestinian homeland. Trump's announcement of this 20-point plan in cooperation with Bibi suggested that Bibi was backing off the idea of completely eradicating Palestine and instead agreeing for there to be the establishment of a Palestinian state. This 20-point plan includes not only the 72-hour release of the 20 remaining hostages, which Donald Trump expects to happen Monday or Tuesday, which is a little bit more than 72 hours, but whatever. It includes a withdrawal of troops from 70% of Gaza for behind Israel lines that have been agreed upon with Israel and Hamas. Moving troops out of 70% of Gaza is a big deal. The war immediately ends. No more bombardments, which is great. Israel's going to release 1,700 Gazan detainees. And they're opening the Rafah crossing, which is huge because the Rafah crossing has been an issue for Palestinians to get food aid since really day one. The Rafah crossing has been shut. Palestinians can't leave, so you can't really go anywhere. You've got refugee camps that are getting bombed because there are suspected Hamas terrorists inside these groups. And so people are dying. Children are dying like crazy. You got 67,000 Gazans that have died in this war. On top of, obviously, the 1,200 Israelis that died on the October 7th attack, about another 450 Israeli soldiers who have died. You have a lot of death in this. So it's no surprise that people are now calling for a Nobel Peace Prize for Donald Trump because this is actually pretty incredible that Donald Trump pulled this off. This is very impressive. Like, you got to give him credit. Like, when do you see adherents to, Islam, so Muslims, hugging Jewish folks? You've got the Qataris and the Israelis hugging. This is unprecedented. This is like the definition of world peace. This is fantastic. So this is really, really good. And it's not to say this is going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of hardship in actually making this come together. But this is the foundation for getting Gaza not only governed, but rebuilt. So I have to give a lot of credit here. I was very skeptical. I'm like, this is bullcrap. Donald Trump's announcing deals before there, was even talk with Hamas. And to me, the reason it worked is because Iran is cooked. I think Iran ate the humble pie, and Hamas realized they have nothing to stand on. And when they realized there was nothing to stand on, they had to go for this. So the Israeli cabinet is obviously expected to stamp off on this deal. We'll start seeing army troops withdraw within 24 hours following the signing and the approval of the truce. 2,000 approximately, slightly less I think, jailed Palestinians will be released as well. At the same time, calls for the Nobel Peace Prize for Donald Trump are being encouraged because of this Israeli deal. Zelensky is saying, hey, if Trump gives us tomahawks, we'll lobby for you to get a Nobel Peace Prize as well. Now, Zelensky wants tomahawks so he can strike deep inside of Russia, but he really sees it as an opportunity to negotiate with Russia. That's at least the sales pitch. I won't I won't shoot the tomahawks yet. I'll just use them to bring, Putin to the negotiating table. Whatever. But anyway, it's not a surprise a lot of people are very excited about Donald Trump potentially getting a peace prize here. This, by the way, the Rafah crossing opening is so incredible because it does mean the United Nations can actually provide the appropriate food aid that's needed to the starving people and the famine that's going on in the Gaza Strip. So I'm very, very happy about this. The Palestinian people, Hamas official says the Palestinian people deserve life and the right to self-determination and establishment of their state on occupied land. They do. And so this actually represents a scaling back of the aggression of Hamas, saying no deal. And they're pulling this back because they realize that Israel is finally walking back the idea of annexing the Gaza Strip. And instead, they're willing to create a two-state solution here. Now, Trump did say in his press conference he doesn't, quote, have a view on the two-state solution. Let's be clear. This is a two-state solution. This is the beginning of a two-state solution. So yes, like as is said here, if you're skeptical, you have every reason to be skeptical, of course. But this is a great step in the right direction. Now, we know that Trump and Tony Blair and some people from the Palestinian Authority are actually going to be sitting on this sort of peace board that Donald Trump calls. And there's a lot of work to do to see how this ends up working out. You'll have a lot of people like, the BlackRocks and the Blackstones and real estate developers or whatever wanting to build, buy wedge deals, I guess, in the Gaza Strip and rebuild it over there. But honestly, like the Palestinian people need the injection of money and investment to actually create a GDP over here. And the fact that Iran is basically creamed, which is evidenced by the lack of support for Hamas here, is probably the best argument for world peace right here that we could possibly hope for. So I'm very, very enthusiastic about this. I'm very impressed too, because I will say I was extremely skeptical of this. I'm like, how could you announce a deal if you haven't even talked to Hamas yet? And the only way it was going to work was if Iran had no leg to stand on. And the fact that it's working, to me, is a sign that Iran has no leg to stand on. And I could not be more enthusiastic about this. See what some of your comments are over here. Let's see here. Beachside Trump Hotel in Gaza. It's going to happen. Yeah. Let's see. Should we build skyscrapers and small German villagers now immediately? I don't know what you're saying, but very well. House Hack should invest in Gaza, says someone. Reinvest in Gaza. Famine is caused by Hamas. The pictures of Gaza people today show us. Yeah, I mean, people debate this all the time. Listen, there's a food crisis in the Gaza Strip. People pick up their propaganda as they will. A war-torn region's always going to have a food crisis. And of course, some of it is going to be that a weaponized Hamas can take control of food supplies because they have the guns. That's how it works when there's crisis. But the fact that Hamas will now be demilitarized is the best possible thing that can happen for the Gaza Strip. And so I'm optimistic by this, or in this. I'm very, very excited. And I've got to give Trump credit. As much as there are so many things to poop on Trump about, like I hate what's going on with this, hey, if you whistleblow or you say something bad about the Trump administration, you're going to get fired. That's what's being talked about with FEMA right now. FEMA whistleblowers sent a letter to the Trump administration and now all of a sudden, and to Congress, and now all of a sudden FEMA is telling staff that if they don't name all of the people who are part of this letter, they're going to get fired. To me, I think that's fascist and dictatorial. This is very much in line with Pete Hegseth firing people who don't align with exactly what he wants in his Department of War. Here, Hegseth's firing of Navy official compounds culture of fear inside Pentagon. I'm not a fan of this, but if they can get results like this on Hamas, I get it. So I won't condone this culture of fear, but I will say Trump deserves praise for what's going on in Hamas. And if they can pull off a Kosovo 2.0, I am all for this because Kosovo sets a great precedent for this. Somebody here actually wrote it. Gallup Global Safety Report 2025. Kosovo scores 94 out of 100 on Law and Order Index. Thank you for posting that in the chat here, Crypto Nix. I appreciate you saying that. Somebody else says, got to set up house hack in Gaza. Yeah, I don't know. I might need a bigger plane to get there. But anyway, yeah, that is a, like, if there's anything you take from this, you should take from this, what happened in Kosovo was a joinder of international support. Norway, the European Union, America, England, Tony Blair, whatever, it doesn't matter. It was a joinder of American and international support to end suffering in a region that was war-torn and ethnically cleansed. You know, it was an basically anybody who wasn't a Serb was getting cleansed. It was terrible. And, you know, to some extent, you could say there was ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine. You know, Palestinians were getting cleansed, you know, under the guise of, there's a Hamas guy, kill everyone around. Like, the amount of collateral damage and children who got killed here or maimed is disgusting. But now it's ending. And that deserves praise. That deserves praise. So, very, very, very fascinating and very impressive. So anyway, Aristox Market says, why the sudden... Yesterday we did a full video on house hacks, so if you want complete details on that, it's actually leading to a surge of investors like throwing money at house hack, which you know, will be deployed very appropriately, and we thank you for your support. But if you watch the video I posted yesterday, it's right here on the channel. It's House Hack Funding and AI Update. If you watch this update, it'll give you a very, very clear breakdown of exactly why and what is going on, not only with our artificial intelligence, but just broadly with the company, funding updates, you know, income, expense updates, things like that, right? So anyway, there's your, hopefully that answers your question. And if you have more questions, you can always email us.
Email ir@househack.com.
Unless, of course, you're looking for, you know, questions on the courses, like the Meet Kevin membership, then you could always email us at
Email staff@meetkevin.com.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.